Testing, testing. Hiya, Keeley.
Yoni. So I'm just trying to. That's it. I'm trying to. Just got all the notes right there. That's it. Oh, yeah. I've had this washing hanging out all day, and one of them is like a big mattress protector for our bed due to an accident in the bed last night. It's been drying really well, and then I just come upstairs and I was like, it's just started raining, and now I can't go down and get it. Honestly, it's just to try us. Right. Okay. I just wanted to get my notes up a bit at the side. Gosh, right. Okay. I think I'm.
Dear.
It's just like go, go, go all day, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a bit hectic this week. I'll be glad when today's over, I think.
How did the rest of your Ofsted thing go?
Yeah, it apparently not brilliantly, but in terms of the paperwork and some of the things that Ofsted look into, but none of it seems to be anything to do with me. So
you've only been there a few weeks, haven't you?
Well, exactly.
You only so much responsibility you can take. Oh, yeah, and that was great news about the CEO of Adoption Now.
Yeah, I realise it's adoption focused, not Adoption Now. But it's a charity that works with adopters. So yeah, that would be good.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's definitely getting stuff out there now. It seems to have picked up a bit of momentum. And I got an email from somebody who said that she really wanted to come to such excellent training, but she was working. So would we be sending out the recording? And I said, yes, we will. Fingers crossed. It is recording at the minute.
It's recording now. Yeah. And only you need to be the host tonight, don't you? So that's fine.
I guess so, because you're not sharing your screen, are you?
Let's just hope there's no more Adobe updates or anything. So, and I'm on the laptop.
And I'm on my laptop, so it's hopefully not going to crash. But I shouldn't have said that, should I? There's not even any real wood here.
Right, I'm charged. I'm charging up. Lights on.
No tripods then.
No tripods. When I go shoot this call up, do you need a tripod? I'm like, no, thank goodness, no. I'm still thinking about that little one though, because it would like stand up properly. I don't know how tall they are, but it wouldn't just be by the look of it, it wouldn't just be perched on a table.
Yeah. Do I look very shiny? The last video we did.
An extreme McLaren moment.
The last video we did, I tried to forward it on Instagram, and they said it wasn't a good enough quality picture. So that's why I've done it, but I can't. So I'll have to keep my face down because it reflects on my glasses. But I can't take them off, otherwise I won't be able to see what I'm reading.
I normally wear glasses, but whenever I'm on like a Zoom, I always put my contact lenses in just for that reason.
Right.
Especially when I'm counselling, because I just want Yeah, they're not seeing much of me anyway, so I thought I want them to see my eyes. So
Yeah, I think I might get some contacts, to be honest, at some point.
yeah.
Oh dear. But yeah, hopefully we'll have some people coming in.
People start appearing, and yeah, we've got 3 minutes. Otherwise, we'll be talking to ourselves for a bit. I guess people can just arrive any old
Yeah,
time, can't they?
yeah.
So,
I'll keep. We've got one person in the waiting room, so we'll give it a bit of time.
Yeah, that's not like keen, right?
Oh dear.
Yeah. So have you got anything nice planned for the weekend, or just relaxing?
No, just have a bit of chill time. We really would like to try and go away or do something, because it's been a bit full on for everyone recently, but it's hard to find anywhere that isn't really,
That's right.
expensive.
And I think a lot of places have like bumped up the prices as
Yeah, they have. I was looking at one place for 2 nights, it was nearly $2,000.
Oh my God.
I know it's a big house, but still, goodness me.
That's an awful one.
Yeah,
Gosh, like $1,000 a night. Jeez, oh.
Yeah, for 6 people, I think, but even so, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's still a lot. Gosh. Right, okay, right. I'll get into the zone because it's nearly past, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got just the one person in the waiting room.
At the minute.
Yeah. Might well just run outside to get the washing in.
I don't know whether to message her or leave it and let her in a minute.
Yeah, well, they are at 7:30 now. Me and the old therapist time.
Shall I admit her?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. We're just gonna hang on a couple of minutes before we start and welcome, and we'll wait a couple of minutes if that's all right.
I don't want them to see me. Are they seeing you? It's a webinar, isn't it, though? It's a webinar.
Oh, yeah. Hiya, welcome. Just admitting you in. Make sure I don't mute Keeley, or the other best laid plans will all go to pot.
Webinar.
I'm just going to put it on speaker view. That's all right. Right. Should we? I'm just going to mute people if that's okay. Yeah. Admit. Right. Okay, well, I don't want to take too much time to start late. So welcome to everyone who's here. It's brilliant to see you here. And I'm Yoni Ejo, and I'm an adopter and also a social worker of 30 years experience. And I'm gonna, I think, change the way the sorry, as you can see, I'm brilliant at Zoom.
Mhm.
And I really need to you could do with seeing me, couldn't you? Right, I'm gonna mute it, and hopefully it will come, the screen will come back to me. Oh, this is all right. Apologies. Right. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that before I cut anyone off. My name's Yoni Ejo, as I said, and I'm a social worker. And I'm also the CEO of Diversity Adopt. And we're really pleased that you could join us today to talk about 5 ways to build adopted children's attachment. So I'm going to let Keeley introduce herself and see if I can make the pictures a bit bigger. All right. Thanks, Keeley.
Okay. All right. Hi, folks. Yeah, my name is Keeley. I am based in Glasgow, and for about 14 years now, I've worked in child therapy as a therapist mainly. I also managed teams in schools in Edinburgh that ran school-based counselling services, but a lot of my work actually has been, particularly with children who have been looked after and accommodated, so maybe in kinship care, foster care, as part of an adopted family, or in residential care, and I've worked with very young children right through to older teenagers, and a lot of the way that I've facilitated therapy is through play, and it's just one of those areas that, apart from gardening, that I'm really passionate about. Play is my thing. So Yoni and I have actually been doing quite a lot of live sessions for quite a while now, and I've been talking about play, and I've still not exhausted myself yet. There's still plenty to talk about, and tonight play will be part of our discussion.
Okay, thank you. So can I just check that you can just see the speaker in full screen? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So I just wanted to ask you if you would just to put in your comment in the comments whether you're an adopter or a foster carer. It'd be really useful and helpful to know sort of where you are in your adoption or fostering journey, or if you've got children placed with you. So just to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Southampton, and I was born to a woman who was a 3rd generation of girls brought up within the care system. She and oh, okay, Joe, so you're going to approval panel next week. Well, really good luck, and I hope this session might be a little bit of help for you. And Jennifer, your prospective adopters, brilliant, thank you for that. So I was born in 3rd generation of girls, and my father, she believed, was an American seaman. And I went to a number of foster carers when I was very little, because I went into care, I think, a couple of months old. And I was very fortunate in that the carers that were caring for me at the time went on holiday, and therefore they placed me with respite carers who then became my adopters. Oh, hi, Rihanna. We're adopters. I apologise if I've mispronounced it. So my respite carers were Kath and Ron, and they made a commitment to me, and I stayed. And I know that actually that decision was really transformational for me, and they gave me a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have had I stayed in my birth placement. So I was a black child brought up in an exclusively white environment, and I really stood out, and I was significantly bullied at school. And I struggled to sort of come to terms with my own identity or feel positive about myself. And so that formative, there were lots of good things, but those formative experiences really made me passionate about equality and diversity, and everyone having equal opportunities to develop themselves, regardless of their sexuality, their religion, or their ability. And that's a sort of fundamental belief that I live by. So I've worked with children in the care system, foster carers and adopters for the last 30 years, and I've been I've been determined really to give young people as many opportunities as possible. So in my recent role, I'm working with care leavers, and it's again reinforced really that adoption is, where it's possible and where children can't remain with their birth family, it's the best outcome for them, because some of the young people who've left care have been so isolated and so unsure about the whole processes of becoming an adult. So I've also adopted 2 girls myself, half siblings, who came to live with us when they were a year old, and now they're 19 and 18. So hopefully you get a sense that I've got a bit of experience about different aspects of adoption. And so my plan and my intention to develop Diversity Adopt, and also to work with Keeley, is to give socially aware adopters and foster carers information, training tools and strategies, so that adopters can feel really confident both being assessed, as a number of you are, and caring for your new child. So that's me, or that's us, and Keeley's going to spend some time talking about the 5 ways to build attachment and bonds with your child. So the meet that you're all waiting for.
All right, thanks, Anne. I'll take the baton. Thanks, Yoni. Okay, so hi everybody. Thanks so much for giving up some of your precious Friday evening to be with us. I'm sure everyone's probably quite fraught after another week of work and childcare. So thanks so much for spending some of that time with us, your downtime. So yeah, I just wanted this evening just to talk a little bit about how we can build those bonds, those connections with our child or children, and how we can strengthen and develop resilience in our relationships with our children. So I'm not talking about attachment styles. When I'm talking about attachment tonight, I'm really talking about developing the bonds. As you probably all know, attachment style is shaped by the experiences that every person has as a baby or a very young child. And attachment style is formed by how we're responded to or not responded to in times of stress. So for a baby or a young person, a time of stress might be when they're hungry, or they're tired, or they've got a nappy that needs to be changed, or they're seeking comfort, because they're frightened and unsure about their environment at that current moment, and the way that we are responded to shapes the attachment style that we have. So some children are well responded to and their needs are met, and so they will develop a secure attachment. But most likely for the children in your care, this is the reason why they're here, really, living outside of their birth families, then it's because their needs haven't been met, and they're more than likely have developed an insecure or a disorganized attachment style. And those styles really set a blueprint for how we perceive, how you perceive yourself, and how you perceive yourself in relation to others, and how you perceive yourself, in the world, in relation to and the world around you. So it can take time and tailored approaches, really depending on the attachment style a child has, to help them change. It's, although it's a blueprint, it can, there's plasticity, and there's always the possibility for change if a child is put in a good nurturing environment. So it is entirely possible for a child to have one style of attachment, and it takes a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but they can kind of form a secure attachment style. So what I'm really talking about tonight are some of the things that help kind of develop into that bond and connection, that kind of help in that process of helping a child to become securely attached if they're not already. And all these things would help any child to develop a secure attachment. So if you're doing this with a baby or a young child, that would help them to form a secure attachment too. So I'm going to have two of my points are just like more general kind of parenting points, stuff that kind of can be applied on a 24/7 basis. But because I love play, and I'm just always constantly bowled over by the power of play, the other 3 points are going to be play based, because I really just want to also express in this webinar just how powerful play can be as an agent of change. We think of play as just something that's fun without purpose, just something a bit childish, but actually play has so many facets to it, and it can be incredibly powerful in terms of transforming relationships. A lot of the work I have done with children has been facilitated through play and creativity. So I have witnessed for many years the power of play and how it can change a child's life. So just to go on to my first point, if you did nothing else with your child, then just do this. So it's to be consistent. And I think sometimes when we think consistency, we think we've got to do the same thing all the time and we can't deviate from that. But I think being consistent actually is different to rigidly following rules or patterns or behaviours, because there should always be room for some flexibility and negotiation in a relationship. But what consistency really brings is a reliability, that in time your children can lean into, and it becomes the bedrock of trust for a relationship. So if you think of your own experiences, who do you feel safe with? The people who always turn up and do what they say they will, or people who are inconsistent, you're never sure what they're going to bring to the table. We want that from our own relationships, with people, be that, intimate relationships, family relationships, work relationships, friendships. We want people like that in our lives. And it's the same for children. And when they've lived with a lot of chaos and a lot of change, your consistency can mean an awful lot to them. It can be very reassuring to them. Sure, some children will certainly test that for a while just to make sure that you can still be consistent. But if they can keep doing that and see that you're trustworthy and they can rely on you, it's an incredible, powerful thing to do for a child, to always kind of be able to kind of say, this is, so for example, this is our structure, or if you're going to kind of promise something, that you keep to the promise, and when you have to set a boundary, that the boundary, is kept to. So, if you're thinking about consistency on a day-to-day picture, then, to have some kind of structure in the day, it might be that, like, in the week, you get washed and dressed before you have breakfast. But the flexibility element that you might want to add into it is if at the weekend, if things are a bit more kind of laid back, if you're not having to like rush out to do like some kind of, now we can start doing things like that, I don't know, going swimming or playing football or something, then you might have a bit more of a relaxed start to the day. So maybe you have your breakfast first, so there's a consistency in it. Like at the week we do this, at the weekend we do that. There's a flexibility to it. But it's just keeping consistent with those patterns can really support a child. And when you set limits and boundaries with your child, make sure you can follow through with them. And I don't mean that in an authoritarian way. I just mean, like, think about it before you say it. Maybe a bit flippant here, but like, the police won't come to the house if your children don't brush their teeth or eat the broccoli. So make sure if you're going to set a boundary, you can stick to that. It's realistic, and it's not just an empty gesture. But also I think, what makes setting a boundary different and be more in a cooperative kind of way is that, if they can't have something, for example, like they want a biscuit and it's near a meal time, then explain why. And I think that just kind of helps children to actually really understand why, that it's not just like a power hierarchy and you're the parent and you've said no, and they're like, right, okay, well, most children won't be like, right, okay, they'd probably be quite upset about it, but I think just to help them to explain, explaining why just helps them understand, as well. And I think it just maybe makes more sense of why a boundary is being set. So being consistent is my first tip. My second is what is called active listening. So before we start that, I just want you to take a moment and just think, what does it feel like when someone isn't paying you proper attention? And what does it feel like when you actually feel really listened to and someone's really heard you? And that's what we want to give to children, that sense of feeling really heard. No one likes it when people had got, you're talking to someone and the response back like, yeah, maybe you're looking away, checking the watch and stuff. No one likes that, and children don't like it either. So I know I've got 2 children myself. They're very small, and I know that sometimes it's not always possible to listen to them. And I was like in moments like that when I can't listen, when I'm like in the middle of driving and I'm in the middle of like maybe like a more difficult maneuver, I would just ask them just to wait a minute until I'd like cross the double roundabout or something, and then they get my full attention back. But active listening is actually kind of taking listening to a different level, because it's really tuning into what the child is saying. So, kind of digging a little bit deeper than just the words, and your responses back make the child feel like you really heard what you were saying, because you're starting to draw out maybe some of the emotion or the kind of subtext, I guess, in the conversation. So, for example, your child's telling you about their day at nursery or school, right? Listen and kind of think, right, what are they telling me here? Draw out the emotion of that conversation, and then you can reply back with something. Now, I'm aware that these statements may sound like a bit kind of Mary Poppins, so do it in your own language and in your own kind of ways of talking, your dialect and everything. But like, I would say something like, it sounds like Max is always making you laugh. So if he's telling you, your son or your daughter's telling you a story about someone who's funny and like telling jokes and the silly things that they did. You could like pick up on that this the friend is always making them laugh, or maybe they're complaining because like there's a child who's maybe like a bit kind of rough or a bit forceful or is not very good at sharing yet, and you might say something like, I can hear that you're not sure about playing with Simone. And it's things like that the kids like, oh, okay, right, they really hear what I'm trying to convey in this conversation, and all that stuff is important to them. I know sometimes some of the stuff the children say can feel quite random or quite trivial, especially when we've got important adult stuff to get on with, but it's all those little things actually that, is really important for us to show and give value to and respect, because they're, if you can do the little bits, as they say, and I'm sure it's in a meme or someone's quote, but if you can give importance and value to those random stories and the trivialities of their day, you're showing a value and a respect to them, and therefore, they're more likely then when they've got the bigger stuff to be able to kind of think, well, you're a good person to go to, and this will be kind of taken seriously and given the value it deserves. And active listening can just be a really powerful way of conveying that message to your children, and all these things are the things that develop bonds, that create that kind of trust, and that sense of security for a child, so that they know in a time of stress that you're a reliable and safe person to come to. So them are more general parenting points that you can use to build bonds with your children. And then we'll now move on to what I think are the more fun ones that kind of revolve around play. So, play doesn't always have to be something that you just kind of set a certain time for. It's definitely great to be able to dedicate some times of the day to, having like some time devoted with your child to playing together. But, being playful is just something that you can just be kind of interspersing and weaving throughout your day. And I think sometimes as adults, we can be fearful of showing our fun side in case it risks diminishing our parenting authority. And I guess part of that is thinking that, well, you can be silly and play, but play isn't silly, if that makes sense. And, and if we were being silly, then we would like lose our authority. But actually, I think sometimes that actually kind of reinforces our point sometimes. So when we can be playful and jokey in the day, that's fine. And then sometimes when we do have to put on the parent role, and it is important for us to set a boundary or do something like to keep a child safe, like insisting that they hold your hand crossing the road, then actually I think it gives them a bit more of a contrast. But if you're serious all the time, I don't know, there's nothing for them to kind of contrast off. I mean, at the other end of the scale, I remember I used to live in Manchester, and some of the places where I used to work, I worked for social services myself, as an assistant social worker a long time ago. But I remember, like in the local precinct, some of the parents would be yelling at the children, and using expletives just because the children had walked like a meter or two ahead of them and they wanted them to come back. And I just thought, gosh, and they were like so angry at them. And I just thought, how will these children ever know when they're like, when there's something truly serious, like, if they were going to run into the road or something, or put their hand too close to a fire or something, they wouldn't kind of know the difference because they were just being constantly shouted at all the time. So actually, I think sometimes being playful is great, but it might also kind of help to try to kind of differentiate between when you can be playful and things are fun, and when you do actually need to kind of be serious. And when I say be playful, I'm not saying be permissive. I'm not saying just try and be the best friend all the time, or be like a sibling to them. You have to keep your adult and your parent hats on, but you can do that playfully as well. because children need to see that you can be a fun human being too, and it's actually a really important part of their learning, and how they can be fun. So, for some children that maybe come from environments where it was too dangerous to be fun, or environments where it was very serious, or maybe houses where there was like a lot of depression, so they might just actually need you to kind of model to what it's like to be fun, and how they can bring fun and play into their other relationships as well. So the way we can do this is like when you're at home, sorry, my first point first is that you are their home, and home should be a place where they can feel comfortable to be themselves, and that's where we all go, isn't it? At home sometimes, we've been out at school or work or something, and then we come home, and hopefully it should be a place where you can just go and just relax and do what you need to do, be messy, be slobby if that's what you want to do. It should be a place where you feel comfortable, and sometimes actually that with children that can show itself out as they've tried really hard to kind of keep it all together at school all day, and then they come home and they can have like quite a big like an emotional display. They become quite anxious or very tearful or angry and stuff. And I say if you're doing that, it's like the strangest compliment, but it actually means that they feel safe enough to be able to do that with you. But like I say, it's it's the strangest and the hardest compliment to take sometimes as a parent. But home is a comfortable place to be, and being playful can help that. So tell jokes, right? Share funny parts of what happened in your day. A couple of months ago, I was sat at the traffic lights and a junction, and a bus had stopped near a park, and a dog ran off the bus, and then the owner ran off the bus too. So clearly it wasn't where the owner was planning to stop, but the dog had other ideas. And I told that story to my son. My daughter's too young to understand it yet, but you thought it was hilarious, and then I had to kind of like show him where it was and what kind of bus it was, and you really love that story. So I think share those kind of funny things and listen to the funny things that happened in their day as well. Do things like look at the clouds together, swing on the swings, and you swing on the swing. Don't just push them on the swings. Or have a kitchen disco. If there's a song one of you likes that comes on, put down whatever you're doing for a moment and just have a bit of a kitchen disco. It's just adding those things through the day. It doesn't have to be always thought out, kind of purposeful, like play or like craft activities. We can just dot it through the day, because play is such an important way with how we can connect with others, and we develop our social skills and our emotional kind of capacity. And it's also a wonderful way to connect with your child and show that you enjoy being in their company. And I know that sounds silly, but that's what a good relationship is. When you think of like when we're adults and we enter relationships with other people, intimate relationships, one of the things that keeps us together is that we actually enjoy being in each other's company, and and we feel that enjoyment from the other person, like, oh, I like being in their company and they really enjoy being in mine. And it's the same for children too. They want to feel like people enjoy being in their company too. And I think that's different than being liked, but to think when they think, oh yeah, I am fun to be around, that's a really nice thing for them to have. And my next point, which is more playful, and I know that sometimes this word maybe has the same kind of response as when people say role play when you're in a training situation or something, and everyone just like, most people just kind of shrivel, but it's to sing. And before I had my children, the thought of singing out loud, had that same effect on me too. And you would never see me at the karaoke or at the pub when sometimes they passed. They used to go to a pub and they used to pass like a microphone round and stuff. That would not be me. But you actually, now I'm singing all the time, but it's mainly children's songs or silly songs. I make up a lot of silly songs all day, so I'm living out that being playful thing. I don't know what the children will make of it when they're older. Probably just be a huge embarrassment to them. But there's so much research that shows that singing and being musical, makes hugely significant contributions to a child's learning, to their brain development and to their relationship development. There's so much to it. And when we think about it, there's something about song that actually starts, for babies in utero. By the 20 weeks in utero, they can hear things, and there's been a lot of studies and just a lot of anecdotal evidence that just kind of shows like if people have played the same song or sung the same song to a baby in utero, that when the baby is born and you play or sing that song again, they show a recognition of that song. There's something about it that means a lot. And when we ever meet a new baby and stuff, we all go into something called parentese, which is that way that we kind of talk where we go, oh, hello, darling. And it's very melodic, that kind of talking. There's elements of song and musicality in that too. So it's really important actually in establishing, the most earliest of connections. And when you think about, all the songs that I sing a lot of right now, because my daughter's just about to, we listen and think of the words in those songs. They're teaching the children language, colours, numbers, animal names, weather, times of the year, emotions. They're all conveyed through nursery rhymes and children's songs, because children often learn better through song. And when we can help a child to understand and make sense of the world, that's also creating a sense of safety in them, and showing yourself as a person that's, an anchor that can help them make sense of the world. So there again, you're enhancing your bond with your child. Another way, we do that through song is when we match a child's emotion with song. So when our child's tired or maybe they're upset, singing songs lovingly that are gentle and maybe a reassuring, can really kind of match a child's emotion and be quite soothing for them. Or sometimes when they're in a silly mood or we want to cheer them up, we might do silly, fast action songs, bouncing them on the knee, and sometimes they tumble, don't they? You're still held in them, or you're pulling funny faces or doing silly body movements and stuff. So, we in like therapy and parenting circles, often that's referred to as attunement. And sometimes we're doing that with facial expressions and words and tone of voice. But song or using musical instruments can also be part of creating those moments of attunement. That's actually what music therapists are doing a lot. They're using music to kind of convey and match the kind of mood that or the thoughts, the emotions that the child or the adult is conveying. And certainly when I've had moments like that using music and song, I'm sure in previous live sessions I've talked a lot about how many times I've sang Twinkle Twinkle to children, and the various powerful effects that's had. It's also very soporific, so I'm singing it and I'm doing it on repeat. It actually kind of makes me nearly fall asleep as well. But I had some really powerful experiences doing that with children, or like playing on in my therapy room when I've had like a couple of sets of drums or other things, and playing those, kind of matching the children and the music that they play has actually been really powerful for some of these children, and noticeably so for children who maybe haven't had that kind of connection and moments of attunement with the adults in their lives, the carers. Sometimes it's taken some of them quite aback, actually, the power of it. So this is all, the singing is good stuff. And in if people are familiar with neuroscience, then you'll know that just what a rapidly expanding field it is. And there's now quite a lot of research out that shows that when a parent, or an adult, but all this stuff is done like with parent and children. So when a parent sings to a child or vice versa, the same parts of their brain are activated. So again, the brains are mirroring each other, and it shows again how powerfully we can connect through song. And we do, song is also something that powerfully kind of conveys and passes down family or cultural stories, and traditions. It sometimes, to sing and to be able to sing, helps people to feel part of a community. So it's a really important tool. And to kind of link it in a little bit with the playfulness, singing can also be a good way of asking questions of a child. So sing out the choices that they could have for cereal in the morning or something, something that can like bring humor to a situation, or it can diffuse a tense moment. And again, I use singing a lot. I'm sure ever since I moved to Glasgow and had children, the rainfall has increased because I'm doing so much singing these days. But it really helps. And sometimes it can just in the morning everyone's like not quite woken up, and just kind of like singing out things like what they'd like for breakfast, or making up a silly song as everyone's getting dressed, can just really help kind of ease those kind of tricky moments in the morning.
As somebody who can't, sorry, Keeley, as somebody who can't sing very well, do you have to be very tuneful?
No, and I would say actually, I didn't sing very well, and I'm not saying I'm great now, but I've definitely exercised my vocal cords, so feeling better. But am I karaoke ready yet? I'm not quite sure. So just the last point I guess I'd make on singing is just that it gives, when you're modeling singing, it gives children permission to do it in larger groups and be part of a community. And then maybe if they're so used to it at home, then they won't be like when they're adults just squirming at the idea of thinking they've got to sing in front of other people. So that can be a good thing too. My very last point is to think about the way we play with children. So often when as adults, when we think about playing with children, we either again recoil a little bit because we think it's something we can't do, or or we try and avoid it, or we take over the child's play. Maybe there was a part of us that never got to kind of play, or we want to play that game again. And so maybe our inner child like takes over, and then before we know it, we're telling the kid, right, you do this bit and I'll do that bit, and I'll say this bit, and then for the child it's not enjoyable at all because you've just like taken right over. So what I'm suggesting is, and this is where it is good to have like to make some time each week to have some like dedicated play sessions with your children, is to let the children lead the play. So some of the benefits that might bring if you're in one of the two above categories before is that if you weren't sure how to play with your children, well, they're taking the lead, so that takes the pressure off you. But also if you're guilty of taking over your child's play, well, when you do it in a child-led way, that puts you in the back seat. So you're not at the same risk of taking over the play again. But for the children, it's really powerful, and it's really powerful in terms of like developing relationships. Because I think part of that is, I guess it's like handing over the baton, isn't it, and kind of putting some trust in the child. And again saying, I enjoy playing with you, and I want to do what you want to do. But it allows the child to feel heard. It can give us as adults greater insight into their needs. So, sometimes children don't want to talk about things, or they don't have the vocabulary. convey what they mean, or sometimes they just don't know. They can't make sense of their emotions or their thoughts. They don't know what that feeling is. So play and letting children lead the play kind of transcends that kind of need for language and that need to kind of structure through language. And it enables the children to feel understood. Because as you're doing the play, again, you're using some of those active listening skills. So the children are thinking, gosh, this is great, and I'm really feeling heard. And it can allow them, play always does this, but it can allow them to test boundaries and explore possibilities, but with a safe adult. So sometimes they're not sure about things, but maybe they could play it out and just give it a go and see what it would be like before maybe they try and do it for real. And maybe in play they think, oh, actually, no, that's not a good idea. Or it might give them the confidence, if it's gone well, to try it in relationships with other people. And importantly, play can help them to release emotions in a safe way. And so sometimes we do that as adults. That's what, when we go out, and we go meet someone for a drink and have a good chat, or we engage in a hobby or a sport, that's us playing. And often when we've done things like that, if we've had like a stressful day or there's something playing on our minds, having that opportunity to play is just a great emotional release. And it's the same for the children. And if you're taking over the play, then the children don't get to do that the same, because you're leading the play. Whereas when they lead the play, they can take it to a place where they want to go, and in part of that can facilitate like a release of some emotions, and also it's fun, isn't it? And having a laugh and a giggle makes good connections with children. Well, anyone, to be honest, doesn't it? And so play can be one of the most powerful tools that you can use to develop and maintain and strengthen a relationship with your child and children, and doing it in a child-led way has huge benefits. So when I work with children using play, I would say I'm more non-directive than maybe I'm suggesting here, but that's really what's helping, is it's actually the children have actually got a chance to kind of convey themselves, because play is a very natural way of communicating for children, and it also provides like a buffer and a safe space for them. So as I said before, they might not have the language, or they might not have the understanding of what the emotion is, or they might not want to verbalize it, but they can kind of convey it through the play, and it creates a really safe space for them. So I just think if you can try to like add some of these points into your days, they should really help you just to kind of develop and strengthen and maintain those good relationships with your children, being consistent, actively listening, singing, being playful, and then dedicating some times to play, in a child-led manner, are all great ways of developing those relationships and helping your children to move towards developing a secure attachment style. So, Yoni, I'll hand back over to you. I think I've said plenty for now.
Well, I'm throwing this at you a little bit, but I was going to ask if you're okay to take any questions, a couple of questions, if anyone's got any.
Yeah.
By all means, unmute yourself if you have. Oh, thank you. That was excellent. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Any thoughts or questions? You can either do it on the chat or in person if you want to unmute. How would you deal with a child who doesn't know how to play from dawn?
Okay, yeah, and that's right. Because although play is like a natural form of communication for children, some children don't know how to do it because they've not had that foundation set down, they've not had the opportunity. And play can be fun, but it can also be like quite emotionally exposing. as well, you know, or just not encouraged, or maybe actually purposely discouraged. So what I would say for you know, as advice for children who don't know how to play, is just to start really small and start in that just be playful area, you know. And so just, you know, just modeling it and doing it very gently, just being playful yourself at first, you know, and then, you know, like just some of the things I mentioned before, you know, and then just gradually just trying to, when you kind of feel like your child is comfortable, just starting to include them in that a bit. So, you know, it might be starting with like, oh, look in that cloud, you know, I can see a dog's face in that cloud or something, or, you know, just doing things that are very gentle, um, you know, just imaginative, creative, maybe a little bit funny, and then maybe you can move on to things that are more structured kind of play, you know, so like jigsaws or board games or something, so that they're being playful, but it's still kind of contained within like the safety of a structure. And then maybe there's then kind of like moving on to, you know, to other kinds of play as you feel like they're kind of developing their confidence in the play, you know. So some of that might just be kind of like going out and just kicking a ball together, you know, until you're really building up to kind of like doing things like role play, imaginative play, you know. But just start small and just start by modeling it yourself.
Okay, I'll just the Jennifer asks, this has been really so helpful. Thank you, Jennifer. When you start to implement these sorts of ideas, are there any common challenges that occur?
One that they'll look at you like. You know, I think, you know, when you think about like being consistent, some children are going to try and challenge that. You know, mindful that like a lot of children have been on a journey where they've been in lots of different placements, lived in different homes, be that with different family members or in different foster placements before, you know, they settle into in with an adoptive family. You know, so being, you know, that might be challenged for a while because they've probably lived under so many different sets of rules, you know, and some might suit them, some might not. But I think it's just, you know, as I said, just, you know, keep applying it consistently, but allow for some negotiation and flexibility. You know, but you just to keep being consistent, you know, can be really helpful, and just to explain why you're doing what you're doing sometimes when it doesn't seem particularly popular, I think can really help as well. You know, because sometimes, you know, I'll do it with my own children and say, you know, no, you can't have that yet. And then my son, who's like much more vocal, you know, he's nearly 5, he'll kind of say something back, and I'll be like, you know, in a own moment, I'm thinking, you know what, that's a fair point. So, you know, then I might go, right, okay, well, what about if, you know, we do this bit, but we change this bit, you know. And so I think, you know, because what you're aiming for, I just think is like, you know, so often we've come from parents and experiences ourselves where it's been very authoritarian, and, you know, and you know, the parent says no, and that's it, and there's no negotiation. But I just think relationships that can be more cooperative, and I'm not saying permissive, like cooperative, where there can be some negotiation, you know, they kind of get on, you know, it works better, but also it's setting your child up much better for the future, you know, and they can, because they're going to have to go out and, you know, engage in lots of different kind of relationships, you know, at school, or if they go to college, university, when they go to work, in friendships, in their own intimate relationships, you know, they need to learn how to negotiate, you know. And if you think of children who have come, you know, from relationships where maybe they've witnessed domestic violence, and, you know, or physical abuse, and maybe there was like emotional abuse, you know, there's like a lot of coercion and a lot of force, a lot of violence, you know. What you actually want to show is kind of that very different way of being, that you can be cooperative and you can negotiate, and that can be challenging for children. They can come up, you know, that might come up, you know, with a challenge for you in regards to that. You know, the playful stuff, I guess it's things like, you know, maybe the children, you know, are a bit wary of playing, or they don't know how to play. You know, and sometimes you know, when you give that kind of control over to children with like child-led play, you know, I've certainly had children come into playrooms I've worked in, you know, and there's all these like different toys around, and you're saying, here you are, you can play however you want, you know, with any of the toys. You know, and for some of those children, actually, it's been quite overwhelming and stuff, and then it's just to kind of go gently, you know, and not to kind of force anything, but just let them just to take the time. So some children will then respond to that by just dipping into little bits, you know, and just, you know, tapping a bit. Other children just kind of don't know what to do for a while, you know, and then you might just want to support them a little bit with a few suggestions, like maybe we could start with this, or, you know, give them a couple of options so they can still make a choice, but you've reduced the options down so it's not as overwhelming. But yeah, they might be some of the things you would come across.
Okay. That's really helpful. The last question from Joe. Do you have any strategies with siblings when one is open to engaging in playfulness and the other isn't? Thanks, great question.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, it's always interesting, isn't it, that sometimes we think when people come from the same family and the same experience that they'll all be kind of the same. Yeah, but children aren't they? You know, everyone's born with a different temperament, regardless of the environment they come into. Everyone has their own kind of temperament. Children come into, you know, it's a different experience for a first child, the second child, the third child, you know, and they all come into a family's history at different points, you know, and that all kind of shapes the children differently, doesn't it? And some are going to be more introverted and some more extroverted, and quite often a lot of the work I've done with siblings, and Yoni, I'm sure you've seen the same, is one's the internalizer, you know, and one's the externalizer. You know, they're the squeaky wheel. But then you've got another child who can be quite quiet and not wanting to kind of say anything, but they're holding everything inside. You know, so if you've got, you know, I would just say be kind of consistent and just offer them the same play experiences, you know, and it might be that one child really takes that up and the other doesn't. You know, but, you know, offer those things, but go at the pace as well. So don't kind of force them to kind of be doing the same thing, and don't kind of compare. You know, like, oh, so and so, you know, he always loves to play, but you don't. You know, I mean, I know that sounds quite cruel, and I'm sure you wouldn't say it quite like that, but you know, don't try to bring kind of like comparative stuff into it. And it might be just that, you know, just try different things. You know, some children are like very physical and very sporty, and that's how they like to play. Some children, like my son, just loves like building stuff all the time with Duplo and Lego and other things he's got, you know. Whereas like my daughter, and he hates art and crafts, right? You know, he just really doesn't like it at all. But yeah, but my daughter's right into it, you know, and she's only 2, so it's only mark making and stuff at the moment, but she enjoys it, you know. So just find, you know, different things suit different people, don't they? So just offer them the chance to do different kinds of play as well, but don't pressure it if they don't want to.
I did say that was the last, but Dawn's asking, do you have any strategies for competitiveness between siblings?
Yeah.
That's not a problem, Dawn. Not a problem at all. She's saying sorry.
Dawn, in the chat, could you kind of maybe just give it a bit more of an example of what you mean by competitiveness, like in terms of like attention, or when they play, or what kind? How does the competitiveness like show up? They want someone they always want to go first, yeah. You know, and something I just think it's just something that's just a developmental thing, isn't it? And just that you partly got to, you know, you kind of got to ride it out a little bit, and you can kind of give explanation, but you know that at certain ages they're only going to understand so much. And I think it's not also just thinking about the children, like, you know, what about the chronological age, but where they are maybe emotionally. So I don't know how old your children are, Dawn, but say for example they were 8 or 9 and you're expecting them to be able to kind of turn, take and share and let someone go before them. You know, they might be chronological at that age, but emotionally they might be a bit, you know, kind of younger, and it's tricky, you know, and I'd be kind of, you know, maybe using some active listening there, you know, and reflecting back and kind of saying, no, I can see it feels really difficult to be able to let someone else to go first, so that it's really important for you to be first all the time. You know, sometimes just kind of acknowledging that feeling, you know, that emotion, that belief, you know, can, you know, I think sometimes, you know, these once they're brought out in the open, you know, it kind of like takes a lot of the problem away. So I would say be kind of using things like that, or if you were doing something like child-led play, you know, and you notice like they were playing like with figures, you know, like Playmobil or like some, you know, like the action figure dolls or something, you know, and one always wanted to go first. You could say, gosh, I noticed that, like, I know, this farmer or something always wants to go first, and you know, or these chickens are always trying to beat the pigs or something. I don't know how old your children are, but you know, I think just kind of reflecting that kind of back, you know, and so it just depends very much where they are emotionally. Anyway, there's a great book called The Whole Brain Child by Dan Siegel and Tina Bryson Payne. It's a great book. I would recommend it to anybody. In fact, I'm sure I've recommended it. I should actually get commission for the amount of times I've recommended it. But you know, one point that sticks out to me there is always about how you know, sometimes in children's development, and Dawn, if your children are 3 and 5, you know, this will definitely apply. You know, there's some parts of the brain that just aren't switched on yet. You know, there's some, you know, so sometimes we're expecting things of children, you know, and that part's just not switched on yet. That function isn't available. I don't know, it's trying to like expect the washing machine to dry the clothes as well, you know. You know, that function just isn't there yet. So sometimes we just have to be kind of patient, and you can kind of start talking about it a little bit, but it might actually be a while before they're developmentally ready to kind of click that on. And if it's any kind of consolation to you, Dawn, my son is pretty much the same like that. He's like heading towards 5, but he'll always be in first all the time, whether it's going up the stairs or getting in the bath first or getting to the car first. So you know, it's just those constant chats and reminders. You know, the bits you wish you could just like have on dictaphone and just press the button for every time they do it.
Oh, thank you, Keeley. That was really that's been, Anna said that it's been really useful. Thank you. Perfect, Dawn. Thank you. What I wanted to sort of say, I guess, is, you know, just reinforce and endorse what Keeley's saying about play. And I think as adults, we can sometimes completely underestimate the importance of it. But I'm really minded of a situation that I had with my mum when I was very little. I think it was probably about 5, and we were walking down the street, and it sort of shows the transformation of a very tiny moment. And my mum was quite a stern woman. She had experienced quite a lot of loss in her life, and so we were walking down the street, and I kicked a stone, and she kicked it, and she was looking straight ahead, and I thought, that must have been just a coincidence. And so we got up to the stone again, and I kicked it again, and she kicked it again. And it sounds like a very straightforward little moment, but what it sort of taught me and reassured me that my mum was quite deeper, and it bonded us a bit more, I think. And so that was just a tiny moment. But what we're talking about is sort of investing that some time with your child to give them a succession of those tiny moments. And I think it's something that developed between the two of us. Obviously, Keeley's got the play therapy experience and expertise. I'm obviously a social worker. I've worked with probably hundreds of carers at different times, if I'm honest, because I'm a manager and I've managed huge teams over my career. But also the proudest times is working with young people. And what we've put together is a course which really encapsulates some of these skills and some of these ideas in a very straightforward and accessible and, I think, informal way. And we wanted to give you this webinar to give you a sense of how we deliver training, how we work with carers, and how also transformational play can be when it's implemented. And so we've done courses, a course with the relationship-based play course, which is a perspective that we're implementing to work with your children and invest 20 minutes, perhaps 3 times a week. And between us, we give you the skills and the ideas to implement relationship-based play in a way that can be really impactful. So some of our previous students have said things like, it's been really useful. When I realized I had to play to do something I hadn't done for 20 years, you guys have been really reassuring and given practical tips to build your confidence. It's been really helpful. Another student said that you have taught me that play is instinctive. I don't have to do much to play. I don't have to be a super genius. I just have to be present, and that's enough. It's been so useful. Thank you. Another student had said, you've given us confidence and reinforced how important play is. I can see how it will help with bonding and attachment. Such a lovely way to do it, particularly as it's early days, in a fun and practical way, putting theory into practice. And I think one of the things that I'd want to say is that obviously there is adoption training. When you're approved as an adopter, you get some training, but a lot of it's really about getting through panel or giving you a little bit of a grounding. But we're not saying that adopters need to be therapists. They're not therapists, it's your parents, and that is the way that you can sort of build your relationship with children and young people in using these strategies to really give your children an opportunity to bond and to get to know you better. It is particularly good for people who are perhaps starting to look at introductions and how to build that relationship, how to create safe space for children. So, as I say, we're running the next relationship-based play course, which starts on the Tuesday, the 18th of May, next Tuesday. We've got 8 weeks of live online training like this. You'll meet other students, other adopters and foster carers who also want to hone their own skills and really be the best parents that they can be. The course involves hourly sessions with myself and Keeley, practical approach. We laugh a lot, don't we? we lots of I'm a great one for some light-hearted relief as well, because sometimes being a parent across the board can be daunting. Being an adopter is even more daunting, and sometimes you can really feel like you're under the spotlight. So it's an informal course, and all of our students who've gone through this course so far have attested to the fact that they have noticed a difference where they've got where they have children in placement. They've noticed a difference in their relationship when they've implemented it, and also new carers who aren't yet caring for a child have gained in confidence, really. So it would be really helpful for parents of neurodiverse children, children living with autism, ADHD, anxiety, behaviour issues, or or children who are don't have any of those issues, but are just building their confidence and building their relationship with you. We know that adoption breakdowns occur, sadly. There's a debate about the figures, but from the research that I've done, it's probably somewhere between 10% and certainly in the US could be up to 25%. And while we're not giving guarantees, clearly we couldn't do that. But I think what we can be confident about is implementing some of the work in the course will minimize or reduce the likelihood of the kinds of problems that create difficulties going forward. Because if children are at an early stage in the habit of spending time, one-to-one time with you, and feeling confident with you and feeling able to talk to you, then teenage years are a lot easier. And I can attest to that, having gone through 4 sets of teenage years. And I think if I'd have had the knowledge of this course, I think some of those teenage years might have been a bit easier. And 3 of them were girls, so I say no more. So this course we're doing is as I say, we're running it next Tuesday. We would love, we'd love to spend time with you. We would really like to continue this relationship. It is a paid for course. It's currently £350 for the whole course. That can be paid upfront or in 3 payments of £130 starting. First payment before the course starts. The deadline, because obviously we are going into the course on Tuesday, the deadline's on Monday. It would be lovely to have you join us. And I guess what I'd want to say is perhaps in an environment where there's lots of training online, and you can find little bits of information all over the place, but what we're giving you is really a roadmap in terms of implementing this, and support and feedback, and some real concrete strategies. And in a world where therapy and one-to-one support for children when there are problems can be 40, 60, £100 an hour, this is a real, I think, good value investment in your family and in your child. So if you're interested, what I'm going to do is I will put the information, the link in the chat. But if anyone's got any questions, Keeley, would you mind just answering any questions if people have got questions about the course while I put the link in the chat, and then I will send it out by email as well.
Yeah, I'll do that. And I'll just say that when we built the course, it's 8 modules in all, and there's a dab of theory in there, but really it's a very practical course. And each week really builds upon the previous week, and it's also got like we've factored in modules where we're looking at play in the context of like the adopted child, because their their early childhood experiences are so different to the general populations, that play can look different, and the way we understand their play can look different too. So, there's elements of the course where we're building your confidence in play. We're teaching you really practical stuff. So it's not just about knowledge, you're coming away with a lot of skills. I've also put things in there like how to keep the place safe, because I know I've done similar stuff before with residential care workers, and they were absolutely terrified. That if they started letting children lead the play, that it could open a whole can of worms, or some of the children there, they could be violent, and they were worried about how they would manage that. So we've put in modules about how to keep you safe, and just really building this up and really building your skills up, but making it a very practical course that each week, it all kind of links together, and it makes, it does make good sense. And you just come out with something, and like, Yoni has said, we're very down to earth, it's a non-judgmental space. And you should come out with stuff, we do case studies, a touch of theory, but lots of very practical stuff. And what's happened in groups prior is actually it's created a great community too, and particularly through lockdown, where some of the groups where families would meet, well, you might have met online, but it'd be hard to meet face to face. We've created community there as well, and although we're here to kind of to train you, actually, everyone kind of contributed, so that was another benefit, with some of the people who already had, already made their families, were able to kind of talk about their experience, but they were still learning, and then there was other people who had just been approved, or, were on the verge of having introductions, and they could bring, different insights in too. So, it was a really nice community, and there was like a shared learning element in there as well. It's not just a taught down course. People are actually kind of sharing experience, and I think that always just makes it feel a bit more real. And I think you always take more out of a course when it's like that, and that's what we'll be delivering again.
Okay. So, Catherine, I've done this course, and although I have my birth children, adopted son, and I'm a foster carer, I found it very helpful. Thanks, Catherine. Really appreciate that feedback. So you can attest that we're not exaggerating it. It certainly, we really enjoyed it, and I certainly did, and I know Keeley said that she did, and so yeah, we would really hope that you will sign up. If you've got questions or queries, then you've got my email. If you just reply to any of the emails that I've sent about this training, the recording of the training is going to come out as well to everyone who signed up. So if you think that somebody who might be interested, then feel free to pass it on as well, or keep it for reference. But yeah, we would really hope that you do join us, because I think it's a really valuable course, and could be quite transformational. So does anyone have any questions they want to put in the chat before I wrap things up? Have you, put it a different way, have you found it useful? Joe, thanks very, very much for tonight. Appreciate it, Joe. Thank you. I've really enjoyed it too. Thanks. Is it Rhiannon? I'm hoping I haven't mangled your name. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, please do have a look at the information. The link goes into there's a bit more detail and ways to pay, and also the deadline is Tuesday for this course. It will go up in price in any future sessions. So really, if you're interested, do get in now while it's at the price that it is. So thank you. Really appreciate it. And have a great rest of the day.
Yeah. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.